how do you keep multiple external partners aligned on timelines and priorities? Do you sit in the middle and manage across the CDMOs? Do you let the CDMOs or the external partners talk to each other? How do you communicate what maybe new priorities are that have
Mhm.
come up? How do you do that?
Yeah, I'd say, Lewis, besides priorities, it might be even as simple as how are you communicating orders and the make signal to each of your CDMOs. This was a lesson learned, and it's actually a lesson that I've encountered multiple times in my career, whether it was at Merck, BMS, in working with CDMOs. And I'd say it's also when you work with an internal and external source, right? You might have an internal plant making the same product and a CDMO also supplementing it with from a capacity perspective. Just the management of orders, as an example, should flow a lot easier within an internal supply chain because you're all on the same ERP system, right? If you're not connected, from an electronic data transmission with your CDMO, by definition, you have a lag in communicating requirements and changes of requirements, et cetera. One of the biggest challenges that we had to address your question is we've had in the past planners oriented by a particular product, where you have external manufacturing oriented by a particular supplier, and a procurement organization, often oriented by a supplier, but for the whole category or for the whole relationship versus just drug substance or drug product. I share that because it seems like a very simple thing, but sometimes even internal communication can be latent, and therefore the wrong signal is being sent right across. So some of the lessons learned are having, especially for strategic supply relationships, having the coordination meetings like a joint steering committee that meets maybe quarterly, right, to review performance priorities. uh, that's critical. And then you have your working relationships with planners, really working side by side in the site. Where it's been amazing, on the one end of the spectrum is true transparency, right? Seeing production schedules and communicating bidirectionally, uh, in terms of supply variability from a CDMO as well as demand variability from a sponsor. But in terms of priorities, joint steering committees and having that kind of top to top discussions and really clear priorities is important, because the latency even within an organization, from key account managers versus planners that are working on the day to day, that those messages can be mixed, and that becomes a challenge when you're holding, you can hold accountable to your contract terms with key KPIs, et cetera, but you'll find sometimes those are often lagging, right? If you look at deliveries and et cetera. So schedule adherence, really staying on top of that and coordinating centrally is important, and getting out of your own way, right? We've actually reoriented in the past supply chain organizations, realizing that we've put multiple, like 2 or 3 different people accountable for a value chain for making sure drug substance gets to a CMO, then that product is delivered as a drug product, and it's a different accountability, right? And then the order management that has been different. So I share that something as simple as even just maintaining orders where you don't have live electronic interfaces or that type of transparency can lead to a lot of confusion and replanning and miscommunication.